I used to help my neighbor's grandmother in and out of her car. After she passed, he towed my trailer without asking. She's not here anymore, he said. Neither is your access. I didn't confront him. I called the tow company, and then I called someone else. I used to help my neighbor's grandmother in and out of her car. After she passed, her grandson had my trailer towed without warning. When I asked why, he said, "She's not here anymore. Neither is your access." I didn't argue. I called the tow company, and then I called someone else. Here's what happened. I live in a quiet little neighborhood just outside Louisville, Kentucky. Not fancy, but good folks. Most people keep to themselves, and we all know each other enough to wave or share a quick chat while taking out the trash. The house next door used to belong to Miss Helen. She was in her 80s and lived alone until her health started to slide. Her grandson, Troy, moved in a few years back to help. That's the word he used, but from where I stood, help mostly looked like sitting in the garage smoking weed and yelling at Call of Duty. Miss Helen was the kind of neighbor everyone respected. She'd been on the block longer than anyone. She baked cookies for every new family, remembered birthdays, and always had a kind word. When she started struggling with steps and getting into her son's car for doctor appointments, I began helping her. No big deal. Just walking over when she waved, offering an arm, holding the door. I'd do it without thinking. Over time, I got into the habit of backing my utility trailer slightly onto the grass between our driveways. It wasn't paved, but it was a strip we both used, especially when space was tight or the garbage truck came through. Miss Helen saw me do it dozens of times. Once, she even brought me lemonade while I was out cleaning the trailer and said, "I don't know why you don't just park it farther up. There's room. You're not in my way." It was never an issue. Not once. When she passed, I was the one who found out from the hospice, been pulling out early one morning. The porch light was still on. Troy didn't say anything to me. He just walked to the curb later that day and smoked like it was a normal Tuesday. I gave him space. People grieve differently. But I didn't see him go to the funeral, and within 2 weeks, he had some sketchy-looking buddies over tearing through the garage like they were looking for pawn shop inventory. Then came the day I came home, and my trailer was gone. At first I thought it was stolen. I walked the block like a maniac, hoping it was a misunderstanding. I called the non-emergency line, reported it missing, even called a buddy who works tow recovery. He hadn't seen it. Suggested I call all local yards. The third one I called confirmed it. Yep. Towed from my street name, authorized by the resident next door. Said it was blocking their property. I was stunned. I knocked on Troy's door. He answered with no shirt on, holding a vape pen, and didn't even look surprised. "Yeah, I had it towed," he said casually. "You can't park on my property." I kept calm. "It's not your property. That's the same place I've always parked it." He smirked. "Yeah, well, she's not here anymore. Neither is your access." That's what he said. "She's not here anymore. Neither is your access." I didn't argue. I didn't push. I said, "All right," and turned around. He chuckled. "All right then." I paid the $420 to get my trailer back. I didn't complain to the company, but I made sure to get an invoice and ask who signed for the tow. I also took some photos. The grass where my trailer had been was barely marked, just a shallow tire dent. No damage. Nothing blocked. Nothing obstructing. That's when I called a surveyor, because I remembered something from a few years back. I helped Miss Helen repair a fallen panel in the back fence. We dug around to find the old property markers so we could reset the post in the right place. I remembered seeing one of those brass markers set into the soil, about 3 feet into what Troy thinks is his lawn. So I paid for a full survey. The results came in 10 days later, and I triple-checked everything. Turns out, the strip where I parked my trailer wasn't on his land at all. It was mine. Worse for him, his side fence was actually 2 feet into my property. I had legal claim over a 2-foot-wide, 35-foot-long section he'd been mowing for years, including the patch where he stored trash bins, stacked old tires, and dumped some broken-down car parts. Now here's the best part. I didn't confront him. I didn't tell him what I knew. Instead, I got a fence permit. Had a contractor come out while he was gone. When he came home, there were 4x4 posts in the ground outlining the new property line. And those posts ran right through his garage extension, a janky little lean-to where he stored a dirt bike, a pressure washer, and a giant speaker he liked to blast until 2 a.m. The look on his face when he saw the posts? Priceless. He stormed over, yelling, "What the hell is this?" I said, "It's the actual property line." He said, "You can't do this. This is my land." I handed him the survey stamped, signed, and certified. "You towed my trailer off my land, so I'm just reclaiming the rest of what's mine." He called the city. They came out, looked at the papers, walked the markers, told him there was nothing they could do. Then I called someone else. Troy didn't take it well. For a few days, he kept coming out to stare at the posts, pacing like a caged dog. He'd stop, squint, like maybe if he looked long enough the wood would move. It didn't. The contractor came back 2 days later and put in the panels, tall, pressure-treated boards, 8 feet high. No gaps. His lean-to was now split in half. One side open to the weather, the other inside my new fence. I didn't move fast. I didn't even touch his stuff. I just waited. That same week, a buddy of mine, a code enforcement officer in Jefferson County, swung by to check in after I casually mentioned some trash accumulation on the line. He wrote Troy up for junk vehicle storage, unpermitted structure construction, and improper waste disposal. 3 violations in one day. That's when things got loud. Troy came banging on my door, furious, red in the face. I opened it just enough. "You think this is funny?" he shouted. "No," I said. "I think this is property law." He tried to step in. I shut the door. Next thing I know, he starts blasting music again. Late at night. Like it was 2019 and Miss Helen wasn't there to ask him to turn it down. Except now, he's not facing an old woman in a nightgown. He's facing me, and I have time, patience, and a long memory. That Saturday, I called the city again. Not code this time. Zoning. Asked about noise ordinances and non-permitted living spaces. I also mentioned that someone had moved into the garage, something Troy had told a friend of mine, not knowing they were a friend. They inspected. No smoke alarms. No windows. Exposed wires. Unsafe to live in. The garage tenant, a guy I'd seen maybe twice, was kicked out that afternoon. More fines. Troy tried to retaliate. He parked his car half in my driveway. I called parking enforcement. Ticketed. Then towed when he didn't move it. He tried spraying weed killer through the fence onto my garden. I installed a motion sensor camera. Caught him red-handed. Reported it. Another fine. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about peace. And I was going to get it 1 citation at a time. But then something happened I didn't expect. I got a call from Miss Helen's son. Her real son, Troy's uncle. He lived out of state but had been following the property stuff from a distance. He thanked me for helping his mom all those years. Said he heard about what Troy did and wanted me to know something. Apparently, the will Miss Helen wrote included a clause. A quiet little paragraph that said if Troy caused any harm or disruption to neighbors or community members, the house would revert to a family trust, and he'd be forced to vacate. I asked him if that was real. He said it was. And they were working on it. A week later, I saw a man in a suit knock on Troy's door. I stayed out of sight, just watched through the slats of my blinds like it was TV. The conversation didn't last long, maybe 3 minutes. Troy didn't invite him in. Just stood there in gym shorts, arms crossed, nodding like he was being scolded. Then the man handed him a letter. Troy tried to hand it back. The man shook his head, pointed at it, then left. Troy slammed the door hard enough to rattle my windows. Later that night, he was outside pacing again, on the phone, loud and frantic. I only caught a few words, bullshit, my house, and she never said that. But it was clear. Something had shifted. Over the next few days, I noticed him hauling things out of the garage. Big black trash bags, a mattress, a set of speakers. He moved the dirt bike into the front yard, then covered it with a tarp. He didn't wave. Didn't say a word. The music stopped. No more yelling. Just silence. Then, another car pulled up. Same guy in the suit. This time with a second man. Older, gray hair. Looked official. They spent almost an hour inside. When they came out, Troy looked smaller. I thought maybe that was the end of it. Maybe he'd lose the house and leave. But no. He started trying to fix things. He cleaned the yard, painted over the graffiti on the side of the garage, even put up a little private property sign by the driveway. Like that would undo everything. But it was too late. A month after that first visit, a notice went up in his window. Pending transfer of property ownership, probate action. That's when Troy came to my door. Not yelling, not smirking. Just tired. I know you think I'm a piece of shit, he said. I didn't answer. He looked down at the ground, then up again. I didn't think she'd actually leave something like that in writing. I still didn't say anything. Then he said, "Did you know she wanted to leave you something?" That made me look up. She told the lawyer. Something small, but he shrugged. I guess I burned that bridge too. Then he walked away. I watched him go. His back was hunched like he was carrying something too heavy to lift. I didn't follow. I just stood in the doorway. Because part of me wanted to feel sorry for him. And part of me didn't. Sometimes I still catch myself looking over at her porch, like she might be out there with her cardigan and that little wave. And every time I see the fence, I remember. It wasn't about the trailer. It was about how easy it is for people to forget what someone's kindness cost. And how fast they'll spit on it once they think no one's watching. She never owed me anything. But I think he did.